Welcome to I Hate It Here, the podcast for HR and people professionals, making the hardest job in the world just a little bit easier. I'm Hiba Youssef.
So many of us work differently depending on maybe our generation or what our certain preferences are. So to be able to cut through the noise and meet people where they are in these moments across the employee journey is a crucial part of having like an impactful program.
Honestly, what I do for work is probably the least interesting thing about me. And I'm sure some of your employees feel the same way. There's so much more to your employees than just their job titles or what they do day to day. Take Shane in marketing, he's not just about writing emails, or Ashley in HR, she's not just about payroll and benefits. Every employee has a story. They have talents, motivations, and potential waiting to be unlocked. And the predictive index helps you understand them all, not just the role they play. It creates stronger managers, happier teams, and we all know when you truly understand your people, your business actually performs better. Want to learn more? Head over to trypi.com/IHateItHere. In today's episode, we're taking connection building to the next level because Americans are feeling lonelier than ever, with almost 50% of adults reporting they're feeling lonely and isolated, and that is absolutely showing up at work. So how do you create these unforgettable, meaningful experiences that truly bring people together while fostering stronger bonds between coworkers, building trust with clients, and creating a deeper sense of belonging in your workplace? Well, I think it's connection, because connection is at the heart of every successful organization. And I'm so pumped today because joining me is my friend Ross Langley. Ross is a senior enterprise account exec at Snappy, where he works to provide innovative and experiential ways for his clients to foster genuine connections. He spends his days hearing from HR leaders about the challenges they're facing and helps them with creative methods for building relationships that leave a lasting impact. And today we're going to dig into that and more. Ross, welcome to the pod.
Thanks so much, Heba. Very excited and happy to be here.
I can't wait. We're going to have such a good time. I mean, I feel like you just have a plethora of insider knowledge that I think every HR leader needs to hear, because I feel like we're all saying the same thing, but maybe we're not talking to each other all the time. So I'm excited to hear more about like what you're hearing from people. But before we get to that, I've been asking every single guest this season, this is not HR related, what's one area or topic that you're really interested in right now?
Love the question, Heba. So 4 or 5 years ago, I would have had many, many answers for you. Currently, I've got a almost 2 and a 3.5-year-old. So my life is very fun. It is action packed. And a lot of, what I'm interested and focused on is being, really present for my family, for my wife, and for my kids. But one really fun thing that we are doing right now, we are on the lookout for the best biscuit in Charleston, South Carolina. I grew up a tradition. My dad would bring home biscuits for my brother and myself, and I decided to try and take that to the next level. So every Saturday morning, we are getting out and exploring. So we've got some contenders, and I can certainly keep you posted as we are on that mission to find the best one.
I'm a biscuit with honey person. I like to drizzle a little honey over my biscuit.
Okay.
I don't know if that's like the proper way to eat it, but that's how my friend taught me to eat it. So I've always been a biscuit and honey person.
I mean, honey is always delicious. I see honey a lot on top of fried chicken. So you get the fried chicken, get the honey. So I've got that sweet and savory going.
Love that too.
So gold stars.
I have to tell you, I went to Charleston a lot. I hung out in Charleston a lot because one of my college friends went to med school down there. And we used to go to this place. It closed, but I still have a mug from it called Hominy Grill. I don't know if you remember how many, that was like maybe 7 years ago it closed or something. Just a throwback.
That was a sad day. That was a sad day for the Charleston culinary community. Hominy Grill, beautiful restaurant in that old home there, known for their grits. I had many amazing meals there. I'm glad that you have that coffee cup.
I have the mug, and every time I look at it, I'm like, why do I keep this mug? It's just like from a restaurant that doesn't even exist anymore, but I loved it there. I thought the food was so good.
Heba, I would say that my memory is average to good, but there are certain experiences, especially when it comes to food, that I think about and can just transport me
Yeah.
back to that moment.
Yeah. Maybe we should do a whole episode on like food and memories and the joy it brings into work. I don't know. Maybe for another day. I love food too. I
Yeah,
mean, like
or
food.
we can give someone a meal and help
Oh, yeah.
create that moment.
Ooh.
But
Okay. Well, don't
to
spill the tea yet. Let me get to
okay.
this.
No, to
Okay.
your point, Heba, I remember a meal and then I remember the day and the vacation
Yeah.
all around it.
The
So I think you're onto
outfit.
something.
It definitely sticks very deep in my mind. Okay, for today though, I want to talk about this like connection situation. We're like really struggling. I think like the pandemic really showed us how lonely society can feel sometimes when you're isolated, which all of us were for the first few months of that time or not. I don't know what people were doing. But I just remember thinking, reading the stats last year where the Surgeon General was like, loneliness is like a real crisis. And, having a good best friend means like you are like less likely to die early. There were like all these wild stats I was reading, but I bring it back to the workplace because if we're feeling lonely in the world, I feel like a lot of that shows up at work. And so I want to talk a bit about how do we define that meaningful connection in the workplace and why is it so important?
Yeah. And have a 100% people are feeling like that. I know we all have, in certain moments, as we've walked through life over the last few years. And it's something that I hear a lot in conversations on a daily basis. And I think the crux of it is making sure that people are like really feeling the sentiment that you're putting out there. If you're welcoming them to the team, if you're thanking them for going above and beyond, it's not just saying those words, not just saying thank you, but being able to create a really personalized experience where that person is going to walk away saying and feeling like, oh, I'm a part of this new work family, or I'm really being recognized. So it's, ultimately having the right sentiment that comes across for that person.
Yeah, it's so interesting because for me, I feel like not my entire life, but probably like the last 10 years, connection has just become very easy for me. My mom has been like, I could talk to anyone. You could talk to a brick wall, Hibba. Like, you could talk to anyone. I'm like, yeah, I can. Um, and so I think sometimes I take for granted that everybody will find ways to connect in the workplace similar to me. And the reality is, like, I think a lot of us we're also different and unique. That connection means something to every single person, a little bit different. But I do think that when you bring it back to that like feeling is super important because we want everyone in the workplace to feel like they belong and are special and are there to do great work. I just feel like we fall short a lot of times from actually creating that feeling.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of elements that go into it. One that you hit on is we're also varied. Everyone is super unique, and being able to find something that is going to be uniquely exciting for every individual is a real challenge. And then I think the other part is just the timeliness when we are engaging and when we are celebrating. I think there are certain moments as we are all going through our professional journeys that we kind of expect to be celebrated or recognized. So it's ensuring that, hey, we are meeting our people where they are in those moments and doing so in a way that they're going to, really connect with and feel energized.
Yeah, I love the idea of I wrote about this a lot like my first year in writing I Hate It Here about like making these like mini moments every day of like some sort of special connection moment. And I think like it's so easy to get caught up and be running from meeting to meeting to not even ask someone like, "Hey, how's your day going?" Or like, "How was your
Mhm.
weekend?" Or what'd you do with your family? Or happy birthday. Like there's so many things I think that we forget to do, but they're like moments every single day that you can create kind of that energy where you're like really celebrating the people. And I love that you brought up challenges because I think, I talk a lot about the challenges I face in trying to do this at work, and you talk to HR leaders all day long. So, what are some of the biggest challenges businesses face when they're trying to build that authentic connection? And I know you work at Snappy, so we're going to definitely talk gifting, but how can gifting actually address those too?
There, people come to us with many challenges, and a lot of them have recognition gifting in place today, and they're looking for a way to elevate it Then there are others that are, looking to start these things for the first time. Um, and
Wonderful.
we're here to help every one of those, different scenarios. Um, and it can vary what the challenges may be. Obviously, from like a business objective standpoint, we want to help organizations retain their amazing talent
Yeah.
so that they are more productive, so they do feel more engaged. But how do you do that? Meeting people where they are is a really crucial
Mm.
element of that. I think so many of us work differently depending on maybe our generation or what our certain preferences are.
Oh,
So to be able to cut through the noise and meet people where they are in these moments across the employee journey is a crucial part of having like an impactful program. Because we do hear that a lot where people say, like, hey, we're doing things, but it's not reaching our people or it's not having the impact that we're looking for.
yeah.
Um, and many of these challenges, we see addressed in surveys and pulsing employees because we always love when, you want to understand, do people feel celebrated? And if not, like, what's the way that they want to be celebrated?
Yeah.
Um, Another challenge that we see is people are located all over the place, whether it's
Everywhere.
just everywhere,
We're everywhere.
remote, in office. And to your point, kind of as we've navigated these last few years, it's become that much more challenging
Yeah.
to reach and connect with those people. And that's something that we look to really help organizations facilitate is creating not only really fun and impactful recognition, but doing so equitably across geographies, across departments, locations, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a wild time with all of us everywhere. And I like the tip I always give managers is when you start working with someone new, or honestly, if you haven't even asked them, you could still probably ask them, like, how do you prefer to receive recognition? Because I think a lot of
Mm-hmm,
people will be like, I want it publicly. And like my
mm-hmm.
direct report has been like, I don't want that. Like she's been very clear, like, celebrate me in private. I don't need public. And also, like, she likes a good gift. So, like, I'm always thinking, like, you should be asking people, like, how do you prefer to receive recognition? I think about like the love languages when people are like gifting or gifts or my love language. I think about that for employees too, where it's like, what's their recognition language? Like, what do they actually want to feel like they're being celebrated? And I think like we forget to ask that sometimes too.
Totally, totally. And because we want to make sure that we're hitting the mark, right? Um, and to your point, there are a lot of ways to celebrate and recognize, and having a sense of what people are comfortable with, as well as what's going to be the most impactful, is always super important when we're informing how we're going to go about putting these programs into place. And I also think not only ahead of time
Yeah.
asking how people want to be celebrated, but engaging with them after that moment of recognition um, is impactful in a couple of ways. One, because you can understand, like, hey, what did it mean for them? But then you have the opportunity to amplify that moment along the employee journey that you're celebrating by circling back with them afterwards and talking about it, learning about that celebration experience.
I love that because I have gotten some pretty unlikable gifts in my
Oh no.
experience. Not from Snappy, not from Snappy, from I was just thinking like if they had returned, if the gift gifter had come back to me and been like, how did you like that recognition? I might have actually been like, I didn't appreciate it. Like it actually missed the mark for me. I don't know if many people would say that, but I feel like I'm pretty honest, so I would. But there are moments in my life where I've just been like, that's just a gift has ended up like hurting a relationship. I think I told you that story once where somebody gave me
Yes.
something they knew I didn't like. And I was like, I don't like this. And the person was like, oh, well, I thought it could like open your mind up and you could like it more if I gave it to you. And I remember that moment. I was like, you should have just never given this to me. Cause it's like, actually, I think it's hurting the relationship. Cause I was very clear with you. Like, this is something I'm not interested in. I don't want this. And then you gave it to me.
Mhm.
Like how disrespectful. But I say that
That hurts.
because
That hurts my heart, Heba.
it like hurts my heart too. I was like, why would you do this? I literally told you I don't like this thing. And then you just gave it to me. Like that doesn't make sense to me. But I bring that up because we've seen how unique and memorable gifting experiences can actually create genuine relationships. I just shared a story about how it hurt a relationship of mine. But can you share some of the like most unique ones you've seen that can actually build genuine relationships within an organization?
Yeah, and Heba, I just want to take a moment to kind of reflect on that story that you shared. Um, I think sometimes people will approach the lens of a gifting moment kind of with their own vision of,
Mm,
hey, what do I like, or what do I think that this person will like? And those are really hard questions to answer. Um, People
yeah.
often, when you give people an opportunity to, choose something for themselves, um, they might not only surprise you, but they might surprise themselves.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you've not only, given them something that is really going to be used, loved, and cherished, but you've actually amplified the experience for them.
Yeah.
So kind of taking that surprise and delight to the next level.
Yeah.
Um, and then, have to your question, I think one of my favorite things that I see people do to really take that connection to the next level is take a moment to record a video and insert that
Oh my God.
into these moments of recognition and celebration. And I have I would call it like maybe a hit list or greatest hits of some that I have seen, but one that comes right sort of to the top for me. I saw a CEO of a large organization dress up like the elf on the shelf and themselves superimposed onto a shelf, and they sent that out to the entire employee population for a holiday celebration. And we talked about like putting our own corny hats on.
Yeah.
I think it's when you do something like that, people see that you really care, that you're being authentic, and something like that I've seen just tremendous feedback and response.
I love that. I feel like for a second I was like, "Oh my god, how cringe that they did that." But also, like, yeah, that probably created a lot of interesting conversation and actually humanized the CEO. Video is really interesting to me because I feel like we're not the TikTok generation because I definitely think that's Gen Z, but like we're used to seeing things on video, but I haven't really seen it translated to work yet because I do think like a lot of executives potentially are afraid of that authenticness showing up. And when in reality, like that authenticness actually fosters the connection, builds that strong relationship, like starts the conversation. So I'm really intrigued to see if, like in 2025, more people actually use like video messaging as a way to be the person delivering something that's like a bit deeper than an email or a Slack.
I've been recommending that video greeting to every HR leader or C suite leader that I'm speaking to. We know that taking just a short amount of time to put a really thoughtful message on video is really going to resonate to a lot of folks. And I know for all of us, we've sent an email before and you get a response and you're like, what? Something was missed in translation here.
Yeah,
And with a video greeting, that authenticity, that truth that you're looking to speak to your team is really going to come out, I think, in an even more meaningful way than a written message.
for sure. I mean, I video is so fascinating to me because I'm on video all the time between like podcasts, between HR therapies and TikTok. Like I'm on video all the time. But if you were like, hey, record a video telling somebody like, congrats on their work anniversary, I might actually freeze up and be like, oh, because like when I'm recording my TikTok videos, it's like a riot. I do at least like 15 takes sometimes. Sometimes I do one and I just send it and I'm like, chaos, here we go. Other times I'm like, I really want this message to land. So I like practice it. But I don't think it comes naturally to everybody. But I do like the idea of like, hey, set a goal like to send more video messages because I do think people are connecting more when they see the person, especially if you're a remote organization.
And have exactly what you said, I think, is why it's so meaningful to people because not all of us are podcasters or are super comfortable behind the camera or speaking extemporaneously. So when you receive that, you know that this person has probably taken multiple takes.
Yeah.
They've probably really thought about what they're imparting to you in that message. And because it is human, because it can be not perfect, and that's
Yeah.
okay. I send out video greetings where maybe I could have done 100 takes, but you hear one of my kids babbling in the background, and I think, hey, that's okay. This is just, is
Yeah.
a personal and authentic message.
I love it. Something my CEO has started doing recently, I think it's in the last 6 months, and it is so funny. We have a sales channel where, like, when sales deals close, like, we celebrate it. Everyone can be in it, whoever wants to. It shows you who closed the deal, and then we, like, shout them out, whatever. He started recording voice reactions in Slack. And so he, like, sends a voice note
I
to everybody in the channel when the deal is closed. And
love that.
it's been really fun to watch because I feel like it's just created this like really unique, fun situation where it feels like, and he really is celebrating these people. Like we are a
Hmm.
small organization, we know these sellers well, and so I feel like it's really celebrating them in a way that feels like special. At least I hope they feel special. I don't know. They all seem to react to the message every time, and it's like laughter and fun, and it feels like it's creating a different energy around something that is like sales is stressful, and then when you close the deal, it's like, whew, right? And I feel like my CEO is trying to bring that energy back and like really give them the appreciation and recognition they deserve. And it's been really fun to watch, honestly, like really cute stuff.
I'm feeling motivated by your CEO right now.
No
If
problem.
I'm putting if I'm putting myself in their shoes,
Yeah.
you're all of a sudden you're like, hey, I've got this at the finish line. Like, what's my CEO going to come up with in
Yeah.
this fun, you know, video celebration or this fun audio celebration that's going to come through in that channel?
God forbid this
So I
man
love
does video. I'm so terrified for the day he does
that.
videos.
I'll be there to see it, Heba. You'll have to share one with me.
I'll be
I
like,
can't
please
wait.
stop these videos. I'm just kidding. His audio notes are lovely though. So it just makes
Maybe
me
get
laugh.
a green screen, get some production
Yeah.
there.
I would
Start making it a thing.
he would be the funniest TikTok creator, honestly, but he would never do it. But he would be so funny at it. I would die laughing every time. Um, I feel like we touched on this a little bit, but we talked about like personalization, like with the messages of the videos. How do you think personalization can be leveraged to like really create an emotional impact on employees or even clients? Because a lot of us are work externally as well. And I think personalization, we're like in the age of it. Like every single thing is personalized to what we all want. So how do you think it actually built like a deeper emotional reaction and connection?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that we think about when we're looking to create that connection that feels very, very personal. One is kind of kicking it off with a moment of surprise and delight,
Mm,
something that's really going to stand out and be something that they haven't experienced before.
yeah.
Um, and then, of course, not only having that fun, gamified aspect of it, um, having a personalized message is what's going to really make them feel that
Yeah.
sentiment that you're putting across there. And then, if you are looking to give a gift as part of that moment, we know it's really hard to find something that one person will really love, let alone a large group. And by giving them, the ability to choose, it's going to ensure that their experience is aligned with their personal preferences, their loves, their interests, um, and all of that taken together with the timeliness of when it's delivered, that personal message and meaning is what is going to create a connection that you can build off of from that initial moment.
Yeah.
Because really, when we're thinking about it, it's hey, there's this initial welcome when they're coming to the organization or you're welcoming them as a customer. And then creating, fostering, and growing that connection along meaningful touch points in their journey.
Yeah, I think the thing about personalization that I've been swirling about recently is like a lot of work is somewhat control based. Like your manager kind of tells you what to do, or like your lead, right? And sometimes employees can feel like they don't have autonomy. And I think autonomy is like really important. It's a feeling that people want to feel at work. And when you're thinking about creating like a gifting experience or something personal or one way to show appreciation, giving them autonomy over like what they pick and how they want it, I think just builds an actual deeper connection because we at our core want to like be in control of our own destinies. That's like a thing. And so like when you then give the choice to somebody, you're saying like I trust and respect you, and also I want you to choose what's best for you, not me choosing what's best for you. And I feel like that goes so far from just like a respect perspective as well.
I love that. I love that approach and thinking of that, Heba. because we do want to empower them.
Yeah.
Um, and we know when you give people that power, what they select is going to be something that will be, used, loved, cherished, and of course, we think about that in a number of ways. At Snappy, whether it's something tangible or whether it's an experience where they can go on a vacation with their family or go see Dear Evan Hansen with their wife, which is what I did last week in Charleston.
Fun. How was
Um,
it?
it was great. It was great. I walked away thinking that is an incredibly difficult vocal performance
Yeah.
for the role of Evan Hansen, but we had a lovely evening.
I love that. I want to talk about that because I think experiential gifts are really interesting to me, like events, experiences, even like custom workshops that people can go to. How do you think experiential versus physical gifts compare in terms of building longer relationships?
I think everyone is really unique, and finding a gift that is
Mm,
perfect for each unique individual is a real challenge. And something that we have found when someone is choosing a tangible gift that they're really going to love, it's going to be something that they engage with their family and their friends, that creates a meaningful and lasting connection, but also an experience will do the same. And Heba, we talked about my food memory
yeah.
earlier today. I think for me personally, when someone gives me the opportunity to go and have a delicious meal or take my family on a vacation, those memories and those moments, really rise above what we're doing in our daily lives, and they create that same lasting connection that tangible gift does, at least in my perspective.
Yeah, some days I'm just like, I don't need more stuff. I already have enough stuff. I'd rather go to a dinner or go to a musical or go on a trip. Like those things to me, I value more. And I think the interesting thing about employees, and we talked about this earlier, is like everyone is unique and different. Some people might value the physical gifts, some people might value the experiential gifts. But I do think it's the part of like creating the memory that matters the most in terms of that connection because you want it to be something that is memorable. You don't want it to like go out of their brain the second the next day comes on. And I do think experiential gifts like are lasting memories, honestly.
And Heba, something that you said that I think might even be more amplified with experiential gifts is that autonomy, being
Yeah.
able to do exactly what you want with it. I worked with someone recently that their dream was to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum in
Wow.
Cleveland. And it's interesting because you're wondering, is that going to be the first choice for most people that you're speaking with? But it became a vacation of a lifetime for that individual. And, the next person might say, hey, I want to go to Yellowstone or the Caribbean. But it's just so interesting when you give people that autonomy, the ability to sort of dream whatever that experience might be, to see it not only be incredible for them, but truly create that in memory that they're going to associate with the entity that made that happen for them.
Yeah. I wish more gifts were experiential. Like I would have taken tickets to see Taylor Swift last year.
I think a lot of people would have taken that one.
Or
Heba.
tickets to see the Bills play, like, I would
Okay.
have gone to a football game. I think those I don't know, those to me are just such memorable experiences. So I love that, like, more companies are thinking about experiential gifts versus physical gifts because I do feel like I don't need more stuff in my life.
Would you go to a Bills game when it was snowing?
No. Actually, that's so funny that you asked that because I have said I've always wanted to go to a Bills game in Buffalo, but I can only go in September because I do not handle the snow well.
The
So,
snow, the wind, it looks real, real cold.
well, they're building a new stadium, but it'll still be
Mhm.
uncovered at the top, and I just couldn't imagine. I'd be miserable. This is so funny. My partner and I talked about this because he's like, you would dress appropriately for the football mat or for the football game. Yes. Sorry. Soccer and football are used
Okay.
interchangeably in this household.
Uh-huh.
Um, he was like, you would dress appropriately. And I was like, would I though? I don't know. Like, I'm not sure I'm made for cruel winter snow, but
I'd have to go to the store. I'd have to get a few more layers, some hand warmers.
a blanket, like I would need a whole get up, honestly, to make it happen. But if someone offered, if an employer
If that was
offered
part of the
that,
experience, hey,
I might
That
have
makes
to.
it that
Yeah.
much even better.
Yeah. What am I going to say? I'm going to say no to that? No way. Come on. We're in the championship right now. It's not going to happen.
Go
Um,
Bills.
yeah. There we go. We just made this entire podcast dedicated to the Bills who are playing the Chiefs this weekend, which is going to stress me out. So
I think most of the country will be on your side, but
maybe, I
we
don't
shall
know.
see. We shall
Everyone's
see.
really about getting Taylor Swift to another Super Bowl, which is a conversation for another day. But I've been known to go on tangents on this podcast, so it's pretty fitting if you are
Taylor
caught
Swift has
listening.
come up a couple of times recently,
I
so
know. I don't know what's going on. I need Beyonce to
she's
announce the tour,
incredible.
so I can only talk about Beyonce then. I'm waiting for her to announce the tour. Okay. I'm waiting for a
Yeah.
lot of things. A job title doesn't define who someone is. There's so much more to someone's story than what they do for work. In fact, I often say what I do for work is probably the least interesting thing about me. And I bet some of your employees may feel the same. Jamie in IT, she's not just about fixing tickets. And Mike in sales, he's more than hitting quotas. Every employee has a story. Every employee has talents, motivations, and potential waiting to be unlocked. And that's where the predictive index comes in. PI helps you understand the whole person, creating stronger managers and happier teams. And we all know when you truly understand your people, your business can actually perform better. Check out trypi.com/IHateItHere to learn more. But okay, back to our topic. I promise not to go on too many tangents. I would take an experiential gift, I think. But what are some other creative ways, like you've heard from HR people, where they can integrate their like gifting strategy into their engagement programs? But the caveat is, I don't want it to feel forced or transactional, because I think a lot of people view gifting and like the idea of building it into a program as a very transactional thing. And I think like we shouldn't be thinking about it that way. So, what creative ways have you heard of HR people doing it in a way that doesn't feel forced?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, gifting is strategic. The moments that you decide that you're going to like insert recognition and engagement
Yeah.
should be thoughtful. And when you do have a thoughtful and strategic approach, that is going to remove that risk of this feeling transactional or out of place.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, there's that initial touch point of welcoming a new employee or a new customer. And when you think about these other touch points along their journey, major milestones, which are far reaching, that is where you can create equitable recognition across an entire customer or employee population. Beyond that, there are those personal moments where people are either going above and beyond in the workplace, or they might be experiencing something in your life where it is appropriate and meaningful to engage with them. So when you are constructing a program based off those touch points that are universal and then those that are like individual to the recipient, then you've kind of removed that risk of like, hey, we're missing the mark, or we are giving them something at a time where it doesn't feel impactful or appropriate.
Yeah. Also, if you, the HR person, think it's forced, your employees are going to think it's forced. So I think that like that energy carries through too, where it's like if you are not thinking of gifting as a strategy, like you said, it's going to then come across to your employees as just like an afterthought that is very transactional.
I think in most cases, when, if you are engaging with someone, they as an employee or recipient, it connects for them. It makes sense. Like, hey, I'm being celebrated because I just hit my 3-year anniversary and I've provided an incredible amount of value to this organization. Or, hey, I just finished a project and I'm getting a lot of kudos, and this is kind of in line with that. So, being able to meet them where they are in these appropriate moments is going to really lead to a super impactful and meaningful program.
Yeah. Well, you just hit your 3 year or
I
2 year?
did.
What did
Amazing. Yeah, 3.5 years.
what was your gift? What did you get?
Uh, I'm actually looking at it right now,
Oh my God,
and
what is it?
this is one of my favorite personal examples of where I often will surprise myself. I'm looking at a standing floor lamp.
Okay.
in my living room. And I think anyone that knows me probably would not have guessed that a standing floor lamp would be towards the top of my wish list. You know, people might say, hey, maybe things are grilling or cooking,
Yeah.
tangential, or maybe fishing or something with a family. Um, but here I am in my home office, and I was thinking I need something to elevate this space. And Snappy in that moment gave me that celebration. And now I look at it and enjoy it every day.
I love that for you. Floor lamps have been a topic of discussion in my home recently as we are debating what kind of lamp we want to get for our living room. So
uh,
I
and
think,
Snappy made it easy for me because I often don't even know like the latest and greatest
yeah,
that's out there. And our curation team are always bringing in new and exciting gifts. So that's the other things personally I love is I often am selecting a gift or an experience that I wouldn't have even dreamed about if I
yeah,
was, shopping on my own, for
yeah.
example.
If I was shopping on my own, I'd just be like buying books all the time. So I'd be
Emma,
buying nothing else.
I put in a hold for Hail Mary at the local library, so I'm
Yay!
excited to take your
I
recommendation up
can't
pretty
wait if
soon.
you. I recommended to Ross to read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I'm pretty sure is his last name. He wrote The Martian, but I read Project Hail Mary in like 48 hours. It was nutty. I like didn't move. I thought it was one of the best books I had read that year. So if you're listening and you love science fiction, I would highly recommend you go read Project Hail Mary. It was on a bunch of lists too, but I just read it because he had written The Martian, and I also loved The Martian. Read that
So
also
good.
in 24 hours. Basically, if I love something, I won't move. Like Fourth Wing's third book just came out in the book series, and their second book I read in 48 hours, and this has now been 3 days, and I've been reading it in like slower chunks every night, but I've been
Just
sleeping at one.
extend it out a little bit.
I've extended it out. I have 10% left according to my Kindle. So by the time this episode airs, I will be done with the book, and maybe I will be incredibly happy or disappointed. So far, my feelings are lukewarm. That's all I will say
Okay.
because I don't want to start a riot on this podcast where people message me and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you were lukewarm about the book that hit. It was the most popular book on TikTok or whatever." Anyways, if you like dragons, you should read Fourth Wing. Moving on.
Oh, big. Oh, okay. Dragons. That's a slippery slope for us. We're going to go right into the realm of Game of Thrones
We're gonna go.
here.
Yeah, I mean, I
Uh,
haven't read Game of Thrones, but I probably should because I loved the first few seasons of the TV show. I will never forgive them for the last season, though.
yeah, it's tough. I was I was an avid reader. I still am. Um, but again, another slippery slope. But that was tough to be creating, a TV show for literature that hasn't been published yet.
Yeah, that man is just waiting to drop that last book.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm kind
keeping
of
my
scared.
fingers crossed,
Yeah,
Heather.
I'm kind of scared. I'm like,
I'll leave it at that.
is this man going to drop his book or drop dead? I don't know. We'll leave that joke for another day.
Mhm.
Okay. I usually like to wrap every episode with like future thinking advice and then pitfalls. So I want to ask, like, what are some potential pitfalls HR leaders should watch out for when they're thinking about using gifting to build connections?
Pitfalls. It's a good question. I would say generally recognition and appreciation. People perceive the effort there, right? That they're like, hey, there is an attempt here, but there is the ability to miss the mark. I have a lot of organizations out there that are looking to mitigate risk. I can't tell you how many people have told me that, hey, we gave this food gift to someone that doesn't eat that, or it doesn't align with their dietary or personal ideologies. And kind of like what you shared, Heba,
Yeah.
is if you miss the mark, if you give something to someone that could be problematic or could make them think about something that they're dealing with as a personal challenge, then those are the pitfalls that organizations and leaders are really looking to avoid.
Yeah. I get so mad when people give like alcohol as a gift. I'm always like, why would you do this? Like so many people don't drink. I don't drink. Like someone has given me that before and I've been like, do you know anything about me? Like why would you give this to me?
And I think that's one of the most common examples. And also saying that, recognizing that in certain customer engagements, you see that very commonplace. Um, but I would encourage anyone that is doing that, make sure you really know who you're gifting. to, and that it's something that's going to be well received and resonate. And if that's ever a question, then that's where you can empower that person that you're engaging with to select something that they're really going to use and love for themselves.
I was just thinking, like, it's why I hate a universal gift. I just like I hate it. I'm like, that is the most like unoriginal, lacking thought of like a like. And I know universal gifts are so easy. I have been the person who's been like, we're giving everybody a sweatshirt this year, but
Mhm.
it's like, what if everyone doesn't want that? And so, like, really
Right.
creating options for people to pick. I mean, I also have like a food allergy, so anytime people send
Mhm.
food, I always have to be like, I have a gluten allergy. I have a gluten allergy. Like, I've gotten a really thoughtful gift before, and not a single thing in the gift I could eat.
I spoke to an organization recently that for a large global celebration, they gave chocolate to everyone.
Love.
And I know for me, if chocolate hits my doorstep, I am super excited. I am crushing that chocolate.
Same.
But there was a laundry list of sort of challenges that arise from that. And a lot of them
Yes.
had to do with people's dietary restrictions.
Soy,
And
dairy. Yep.
that's right. And when you're sending across the globe, there are going to be some places that are hotter than others. Some people arrive with like a pool of chocolate, and their primary sort of goal in our conversation was like, "Hey, we have to be. This has to be successful if we're going to, invest in this moment. We want it to really hit the
Yeah.
mark and be impactful." Um, so that's, I would say, the most common pitfall that we hear from folks.
Yeah, same. I mean, I've fallen, honestly, I've made that mistake before, so I'm not surprised. I always like to end on advice. So, what if you could give one piece of advice to HR leaders who are just starting to incorporate gifting into their connection building efforts? What would it be?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think that advice could differ depending on the organization you're speaking to, and what their objectives are, and what's most important to them. But if someone is starting off with a recognition program, um, I would advise them the cornerstone of that program should be around the celebration of anniversary milestones, celebrating 10-year and impact to the organization over time. um, that's one of those that it's going to be equitable across the organization. And then there's also certain KPIs HR leaders can look to influence. So if they say, hey, I'm seeing our average tenure at 3.5 years, then let's make sure that we're having meaningful touch points at those anniversaries before. So we do that a lot, Heba, where they might have a certain budget that they want to allocate towards recognition. But generally speaking, anniversaries would be the initial place to start.
I love that. We do that at Work Week. We've done it at multiple organizations I've worked at. It just feels really nice to be like, happy 1 year. Actually, at Work
Yeah,
Week, we ask everybody what their wish is on their anniversary, like their wish for the next year. So it's like a fun, engaging situation. But I think anniversaries are so special. And also, like, you want people to feel like the longer they stay, not like the better the celebration gets, but like you want people to stay. I'm gonna end it there.
hmm
You want people to stay. So like celebrating those milestones makes people think like, oh, I want to be here for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Like I want to be that person getting that celebration someday.
absolutely. I know I wake up on that 3-year anniversary and I'm super excited for what's to come there.
Yeah.
I would say beyond anniversaries, really setting the tone with that new hire welcome or that new customer engagement would also be an area to focus on.
Love that. There's so much that can be done there. I actually hit my 3 year in Work Week this year in the summer, and I am very excited to see what kind of celebration I'm gonna have for myself.
But do you know what you'll be wishing for in
Oh
your
no,
next
not
year?
yet. Not
Okay.
yet. I don't know.
That's a great question.
I
That's
know.
a great
They asked
question.
it.
And I can very much see that, if that question is part of that celebration, and then,
A
having an
sabbatical.
opportunity to share the feedback and the thank you note
Yeah.
or moments beyond it, to kind of reflect on it. I love that.
Maybe I'll wish for a sabbatical. I don't know. I would be sad. Usually when I take vacation, I like miss my coworkers, which is rare. I
I
understand.
get that. That means you have great coworkers,
I have fun with
Eva.
them. I still text them when I'm on vacation, and sometimes I'll Slack them and be like, "I just miss you guys. What's going on?" And then my CEO will be like, "Please leave." Like every time I'm on vacation, I go to Slack. He's like, go away. I'm not talking to you this week. And I'm like, no, but I want to talk. Can we hang out? And he's like, please leave. Like, go now.
You go on vacation, you go
Yeah.
enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
We'll see you in a few
He's
days.
always so funny because he's like, leave now. I'm like, okay, bye.
Okay, if your CEO does start making some TikTok content, I'm going to be a follower.
He would be so fun.
Between this and like the shout outs after the closed one deals, I'm a fan.
He's a good source of entertainment for me, honestly, most days.
I love it.
I would be lying if I didn't say there are frustrating days. There are always frustrating days when you're a CEO and a C or a CPO and you're working together to like solve really difficult problems. But I think the thing I come back to is he always makes me laugh, and there's like genuine accountability on both sides. So I always feel like it's going in a good direction, you know?
That's super positive.
Yeah. But a lot of HR leaders I know struggle with their CEOs, but that's an episode for another day. And so concludes our time together today, Ross. I had such a good time chatting about connection, gifting, recognition, appreciation. All of these are so core to really making somebody feel seen and heard at work. So I deeply appreciate that you took time out of your busy schedule to chat with me today about how we can be doing this as HR leaders in a really effective and like impactful way. So thank you.
You're so welcome, Heva. It's been a delight getting to know you and speaking with you today. And, if anyone out there is ever curious about new and exciting ways to celebrate and engage, we're always here to have those fun conversations and spread smiles together.
So I always link people's profiles in the show notes, but how can people get in touch with you after this episode?
Yeah. My email is ross@snappy.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and we'd love to connect and, help drive an impactful program together.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Ross.
You're quite welcome, Heba. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks for tuning in. Keep up with all the latest HR resources by subscribing on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen. And if you love I Hate It Here, tell an HR friend. I'll see you next time.